Glove. Come on.
My
Somebody
phone's
named
off.
that movie. Really? Nobody knows that movie? Smell the Glove?
No.
No, I'm out.
Spinal Tap.
I thought Spinal Tap was a legit documentary the first time I watched it when I was like 9.
Sure, yeah.
I was like, who are these fucking idiots that they're following?
The best scene out of that whole movie is after they meet one of the groupies, and then the next show or the next scene, they all have the same cold sore in the same spot.
Yeah, I remember those days.
Yeah, but this guitar, this amplifier goes to 11.
But what? I think I actually understood his logic on that. Like, yeah, I get 10 is a thing, but this one goes to 11. That's better. It's one better.
Why not make 10 higher?
I'm gonna make you upset because I've never seen the movie.
Well, then you have homework for the weekend, my friend.
Yeah, I got homework too.
Let's put on right now. Wait, you've heard that joke before though, right?
No.
What's the lowest on the skin?
Take it to 11? You never heard the term take it to 11?
That's where it comes from.
Yeah,
So if you
it's from that
get
movie.
a chance.
Okay.
It's a good one.
A speaker, an amplifier, and all the other ones go to 10, but his goes to 11.
Because it's better. It's louder.
Gotcha.
Because it's 11.
It's a rockumentary. The very first one, actually.
Yeah.
There's a show called A Cockumentary. Have you seen that one?
I don't know if my wife... Was that one of those ones I got
I
to search
watched that
history off
show
of? Or?
on our first date.
Like with her?
I'm sorry.
Yes.
Okay, because you're looking at me
She showed
like...
you or?
No, I showed her. When I used to date, I would.
You try to weed him out
Oh,
right
yeah.
away.
You're either gonna love me, or you're never gonna talk to me.
This is the litmus
And then
test right
Lawrence-
here.
Hold on, me and Michaela were talking about that earlier today. Like, when me and Grace met, I just let all my weird shit out right away. Like, this is gonna work or it's not.
How old were you?
It was 7 years, so I was 29.
Okay, so we were about the same.
Well, I was
age.
already divorced at the time too, so I was like, I'm
Here.
sick of it. I don't want to fucking deal with it.
Been this process
So
before.
look, either it works or it doesn't.
Yeah.
And now, so what I was telling her was like, I like to embarrass Grace now because if she doesn't understand it's going to happen, this is her fault now. Like, yeah.
I tell people I'm proof that my wife makes bad decisions.
A joke Grace and I like to do is so her and I met on OkCupid. So we're like, next time I'm just gonna pay for it.
Right.
It's just it's like the Craigslist of fucking online dating.
You're gonna pay for it either way.
Yeah.
No, I'm paying for it for sure.
50%
Oh my
or
God.
yeah.
What's
ready,
up?
You ready to go?
I've been ready.
Okay.
Waiting
Episode
on
2.
you.
Episode 2 on a rock or something. We've got James from James and Mo Vlogs.
That's right.
Joe from Spectre Tech Labs. There's our machines right there. We have myself from Farms Unlimited California, and Mr. Pete Stevens from the Sensible Canine.
That's true, I am.
What is the Sensible Canine?
Sensible Canine is a... Really? Wow, that was like you were taking a picture on, in the mall.
I'm
popping the collar
really
up.
intrigued by what you're about
That was
to
his
say.
OkCupid.
Okay.
So-
Oh, is that?
That's how it works,
All right.
man.
Now, the Sensible Canine, I'm
Get all my
basically
weirdo right off the bat.
a detection training company for dogs, and it's kind of a mishmash between civilian dogs and professional dogs. I spent the majority of my law enforcement career working dogs. Member of the California Narcotic Canine Association. I'm one of the board members, and dogs are my thing. I like dogs because I like having dogs as partners because
They're not people.
they're not people, and you get to decide where you're going for lunch. There's no argument.
Are they racist?
No,
No?
they hate everybody equally.
Good for them.
Same.
Yeah.
Oh, so now my spirit animal is a dog.
Yeah.
Good.
We get to decide what kind of dog. I'm thinking cockapoo.
I'm right with it.
Well, so he just had a litter, not
Okay.
personally,
Okay.
and I've got a German Shepherd. You've got 17
I have
of them.
Yeah, I have 3.
Okay.
And they need training. So what are you doing tomorrow?
That's really why you're
Probably,
here.
yeah. Hey, this is more of an intervention. Didn't know if you knew this, but no. I actually, puppies are fun. I love training puppies. That's a very clean slate. They're not really tainted by a whole lot of things, and you can really do a lot with them.
So
they
like
learn
people
quickly.
in that way.
Well, yeah. I mean, they're really easy. If you understand how to animal behavior, just the basics of it, you can train pretty much any animal to do things.
My dogs need training.
Okay.
So my male and my female are older. I
Right.
think my male's 4, my female's almost 3.
Right.
They're very docile German Shepherds. The puppy though.
Most of the time, it's not the dog that really needs the training.
Yeah, it's me.
Yeah, it's those people.
No, yeah.
It's
You know
'cause
what
you just don't,
Caesar
you don't
Milan-
know.
Yeah, have you heard of Caesar
Yeah, I
Milan?
know.
You doing rollerblades?
No.
Is that not a common training technique? Is
No.
rollerblading with the dogs?
Can you imagine this on rollerblades?
So bad. Oh yeah. That's,
No,
what
those
do you think
thoughts,
I'm doing when I
those,
leave here?
Those thoughts we need to keep to yourself. Those are bad, impure thoughts. You probably should seek counseling.
Those are the best kind of thoughts.
So-
With the dogs, though, it's like I said, most of it is training the people. The dogs and animals in general are fairly easy to train. It's just teaching people to understand how their brain operates, what's going through their head, and because it's pretty simple.
Yeah, ball.
Well, it depends. So, like, ball is, it can, because I have a dog right now that ball means nothing to her. It's every dog is completely different. I loved always hearing people say, "Well, my other dog," and my response to them is, "It doesn't matter what your other dog did. The only dog we're worried about is the one we're working right now. You can take bits and pieces of training that you learned from that dog, the previous dog, but the dog that we're worried about is the one that's in front of you." Because everybody's different. Like, the dogs are like kids. I have 3 dogs in my house right now. I have a chocolate lab, a black lab, and a dachshund. And the dachshund runs the house. Yeah, Walter has his own Instagram page. He's my little wingman. The world according to Walter. I hope we get more followers.
Hashtag the world according to Walter.
But it really all depends. Now, it's funny is that little dachshund, he will hunt down anything. No, he's 9 pounds.
Right.
He just doesn't have that concept. And what's even funnier about that is one of my black lab, we've had her since she was a puppy. All she has ever seen is Walter, and she thinks Walter is bigger than her because that's how she grew up. She's 70 pounds. She could crush him, but she's still scared of him because in her mind, he is bigger than her.
Right.
So that's kind of how, give you a mindset of how dogs, especially animals, but dogs especially, kind of how they think. They're very, it comes down to 2 things. There's a bunch of different studies on things, and they have all these different drives and instincts. We'll talk about drives being what motivates a dog, or their different natural instincts, or we won't get anthropomorphic about things. We'll just talk about, just.
That's the only reason I'm here.
Well,
Anthropomorphic.
anthropomorphic is the only. Anthropomorphic is like the only big word I know, which is basically giving animals human emotion. They just don't have it.
You ever tried to
I
tell a
wish more
female
people
that?
knew
Yeah,
that.
yeah, but
Oh.
it doesn't work that way.
Yeah.
But-
Go ahead. Go give me a
But here's why you're wrong.
No, seriously though.
Here's why the dog expert is wrong.
So I gave my dogs treats last night and fucked up their stomach.
Right.
So this morning I found a pile of shit in the house.
Right.
I said, "Who shit in the house?"
Right.
And my female her ears went down and she looked away and I'm like, "Oh, see."
No, she knows that voice, and she's gotten her ass beat before when you said who's done that. So, no, it's if your dog destroys the trash and you're gone, and you walk in the door, and you decide, hey, I'm pissed off because you went through the trash and you destroyed everything, and you go to beat that dog, they have no idea why they're being
too
beaten.
late.
It's too late. You're correcting. So first of all, we don't beat our dogs,
No.
but secondly, we're talking about corrections and modifying behaviors and controlling things. They don't understand what they're being, quote, punished for. We don't punish our dogs. Dogs don't understand punishing. They understand a correction. You can't take things personally.
The correction has to be almost
Yeah, it has to be within
instantaneous.
it has to be within a second or 2. I think in the general guideline is try, in their mind, if they thought about it, they've done it.
Yeah.
But it's usually within 1 to 2 seconds.
So when you come home, because I've had the same thing happen, not the same thing, but you come home, the dog did something stupid,
Mhm.
and they could just look at your
It's your body language.
and they're like, "Oh,
Well, you talked
I don't
about
know what I
puppies,
did."
right? So you have these puppies.
Yeah,
Or-
my puppy right now is 4.5, 5 months old, I think.
So they did a study, and with puppies, especially young puppies, the first things that young puppies do is they study your face.
Huh.
Okay, they look at your face. When I was a patrol cop, and animal control wasn't working, it'd be like 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning, and let's say there was an animal bite, they would send the patrol guys to the local hospitals to take the animal report or the bite report, because you have to be documented for health and safety code. So we would get there, and most of the time the dog bites on kids are where? On their face. You know, right here. Yeah, like that picture you're showing right there on the face.
Didn't know that.
Well, this is where the dog world and the human world collide. It's bad. So what happens, especially with little kids, is little kids get down into a dog's face.
Yep.
Okay, they're invading their space. Now they're threatening them. In dog world, you don't do that. You don't get face to face. Then, because kids are happy, they smile. Well, they're baring their teeth. In dog's mind, you just showed your teeth to me. Now you're challenging me. I have to do something. They reach out and they snap. Rarely does a dog grab somebody by the face and hold on to them. Most dogs won't hold. They'll just bite and release. Call it defensive bite.
There was a horrible one in Claremont with a pit bull like a couple years ago.
Yeah, that's a whole different story. When you understand what those dogs are genetically bred for, you know, they're fighting dogs, but they're also bred for I think it was fighting bulls, and fighting bulls in a pit. I mean, so that's why they get the term pit bull from it. And I could be wrong on that, but that's, you know, one of the.
Well, I guess that so pit bulls are naturally more aggressive than other breeds. Is that right?
Generally, but every dog is specific to their own. Like right now, we are constantly running into problem Belgian Malinois. Okay, Belgian Malinois is French for don't get one.
Yeah, I remember that from my French lessons in high school.
Well, what ends up happening is people don't understand the breed, and so the first one was when Osama bin Laden was killed, and the only person on
Allegedly.
Yeah. Okay. Well, the only member of the team that they identified immediately was Cairo, the Belgian Malinois that went with him. Okay, because Cairo doesn't care. And Cairo's in a kennel. They're not coming after Cairo. But everybody wanted a Team 6 dog. Well, when everybody was like talking, okay, I want a Team 6 dog, and you would hear that's the first clue that you're not ready for this. You are just absolutely not ready for this.
Well, I think most people in general are not ready for a dog.
No,
It's
I would
a
agree.
massive commitment.
It is. If you're lucky, like okay, I have my black lab Penelope. We call her PJ because her name is Penelope Jane. My daughter named her. PJ is arguably one of the best pets you could ever have because she has an on and off switch.
Right.
She's perfectly happy snoring on the couch. But if you bring out a tennis ball, she'll play with you all day long. She's super easy to train. She's got a great nose on her. I've trained her to find some things. She loves it. She doesn't care what you reward her with. You can give her a tennis ball, a tug toy, a little bit of food, or just a little bit of praise. That dog just wants to work and make you happy. She's a fantastic dog. Malinois typically don't have an off switch. Typically. Now, there are some that are...
It's on purpose, isn't it? Like,
Well-
those were bred specifically for their task.
No, they're actually shepherd. So they're bred for herding. Our best dogs that we have for in the professional working dog world aren't bred for what we do. The only dog that I understand that has been bred specifically for protection is a Doberman. And Dobermans have all sorts of, just, you know, the hodgepodge of stuff. It's got Weimaraner in it, and it's got I think Vizsla. I'm not 100% sure, but I do know that if you've ever seen a Doberman that doesn't have its ears cropped or has a long tail, you would think that it's a Vizsla or a chocolate lab. It's just a weird looking animal.
I don't think I've ever seen one.
Yeah, I remember seeing the very first one, and it was on a bike sleeve. It was at a Schutzen trial up in Escondido, and I'm like, what the hell kind of dog is that? And somebody goes, that's a European compliant Doberman, because in Europe they were no longer allowing the cropping of the ears or the docking of the tails. And so it's just this weird looking animal. If they were really good at it, we would have more of them in law enforcement. There are a few, but we really don't.
So why do law enforcement use like shepherds?
It's herding. Herding, you know, they're natural protectors.
Okay.
Or the herding dogs. German shepherds. The main breeds that we're using right now are.
Okay, now that's a badass dog.
That's a cool
Yeah,
looking
that's
dog.
well, that one. But
It looks big for compared.
my first thing that I see looking at that
Make
dog,
sure you
I
pop
see
that up on the screen so people can see how.
the first thing
Yeah.
the picture that he's putting up.
That's
The first thing I look at it, I go, that collar's too big for that dog. You know, it's where
I think
look at
it accentuates her chest very well.
It does. It's a pretty dog. There's no doubt about it. I mean, they're a very pretty breed. But with the typical three breeds that we use for, like, we'll say for protection work are the German Shepherd, kind of a Cadillac
damn
of
right.
dogs. Okay. Then you have we'll go with the Belgian Malinois kind of next, but Belgian Malinois definitely right now are way more popular. Belgian Malinois, we'll call it the Ferrari. The Cadillac of the dog, German Shepherd, solid, well built, crash.
Really soft suspension.
It's going to be it's comfortable to ride. you know, typically when I would be decoying for them, and I'd be the guy in the bite suit, or if when I was doing some Schützen Club helper level stuff, they're the dogs that are, when they come in at you to go for a bite, they kind of slow down like a step or two, and you can kind of, if you're watching their eyes, you can see them going, okay, I'm targeting that arm, and they get kind of close. They'll get close, and then they'll go in very deliberately. Belgian Malinois is coming in at you at 110 miles an hour, going to launch 10 feet away. There's a movement that we call, it's called an askew. If they go airborne, you just kind of turn like Matrix and let them go by. Yeah, and there's a lot of sports out there, and there's a big protection dog sport world out there. And some of these decoys, they're amazing. I mean, they're fast. I mean, they'll have to make a dog miss them real quick, and you're building up frustration with that dog.
They're like rodeo clowns for
yeah,
dogs.
Basically, yeah. Well, they're eventually going to get bit.
Yeah, you're gonna lose eventually.
Right.
So when it comes to protection dogs, though, can you take my 4-year-old male and turn him into protection dog, or is it something where you got from a puppy kind of
Genetics. It's
Okay.
all about genetics.
So what was that third breed?
The third breed, Dutch Shepherds.
I like
Okay.
the Dutch Shepherds.
Dutch
Cool
Shepherds. So Dutch Shepherds and Belgian Malinois are in the same Belgian Shepherd family.
Mm-hmm.
There's like 3 or 4 other Shepherds, Treverns, things like that, that are in that little Belgian Shepherd family. But my first patrol dog was a big 90-pound Dutch Shepherd from Holland. His name was Bob. And it was a great name for a police dog, you know, because my very first search, my cover officer's name was Bob, and I'm yelling, "Bob, here!" And he's like, "Dude, I'm right here." I'm like, "No, I'm calling my dog."
I am your
But
dog.
he was a big 90-pound Dutchie from Holland.
Your partner or the dog? That's right.
Yeah, the dog.
I got it.
Well, he's my canine partner. The cover officer was
I'm
Bob.
confused.
I know. We'll slow things down.
We'll get it. All right. We're getting there.
We'll slow it
Just
down.
bobbing.
But the Dutchies, they typically have a screw loose, meaning that they'll. The ones that I've worked, they definitely will pick one person in the pack to be the leader. There are the exceptions. There are some of them that are just amazing and fantastic. And this goes actually for all breeds. There are pit bulls. So we talked about pit bulls being, you know, pretty high strung. But there are some of them that are just the best dogs ever. So it's I don't like giving, you know, I don't call it breed shaming, but it's just a lot of how it's raised. Yeah, does genetics play a part in it? Absolutely, it does. Absolutely, and that's where we in American law enforcement screw things up.
So that was why I was asking. I do know a number of people that they're pit bulls.
Right.
People. Like that's their dog. They're
Sure.
the sweetest dog in the
Oh,
world.
they're beautiful.
They apparently like the big thing that they really like is their resting face is kind of like a smile.
Right.
They absolutely love that feature of them, and they say, "Oh, they're the sweetest dog ever."
It's a velvet
and
hippo.
then the next day you hear about a pit bull just ate a kid's face.
Sure.
You know what I mean? So it's
There-
one of those like
we,
it's hard
we talked
to really
about drives
pin down on
earlier. So I remember very clearly. I had a radio call of a pit bull that was hit by a car, and so I go over to kind of control traffic and see if they were concerned for the dog's safety.
Do they send you because you're the dog guy, or just
No, I just
happenstance?
happened to happenstance. Unfortunately, yes, they did, because I was like, okay, they're going to send the canine unit to go handle this, and they figure you've already been bit anyway. You know what it feels like.
That
You
picture I showed you was a bite sleeve guy.
Yeah,
Pulled it up a little
yeah,
too
that's
high.
yeah, we have a little. Yeah.
Right in the
Well,
face.
there's 3 kinds of handlers. There's those who will be bit, those who have been bit, and those who will be bit again. Because if you work
Sounds
in
like
this,
a great profession.
if you are in
Sounds
this
like
in
fun.
this world of canine, you're gonna get bit, especially when you're in one that's the where the main focus is apprehension of wanted suspects. You know,
That's why the smelling stuff is better. 'Cause you don't
it's
get
actually well, no. Sometimes you do, especially if they.
You told
well, right here.
he just said what the 3 types of dog handlers are.
So
Come
I-
on.
this little scar right here is actually from having a Kong, the Kong toy on a rope. And I went to take the toy and I moved it, and it's right here. And the dog was going for the Kong, and he got me instead. It wasn't an on purpose thing.
Did you cry?
Always, I cry every night.
Yeah.
Whether I need it or not. Who doesn't need it could cry?
But back to James' question. Do you think the dog feels bad?
No, not at all. He didn't know what he did.
Bullshit.
No.
He knew exactly what he did.
No, there are some where you're
he was like, "Oh, good, the ball's there. He's not gonna know."
Well, you'll hear people go, you know, like, "Oh, you meant to do this." Like, no, they don't have the capability of doing that. They just don't. They don't have the capability of taking things personal. Now, you guys mentioned Caesar Millan. He says that there's no bad dogs, just bad training. Wrong.
Chihuahuas.
I've known. So, you know, I always thought it would be really fun to get a pack of like 30 Chihuahuas and put them in the back of a police car and then pop the door
They're like drones.
and have just like, all these.
So I was always under the impression that Chihuahuas, they're just cats. There's not much to them.
No, they're rats.
They just,
Dude, they're if you Google any of the stuff on YouTube about some Chihuahuas, they're kind of nasty. Some of them are.
Yeah, so they are cats. Cats
they're
are
not
just
like
shitty creatures.
Yeah,
so.
they're not knocking stuff off your table on purpose.
That you,
They're
of
looking
course,
at you.
if they could, they absolutely would.
We get to the bite work though. It takes a lot of skill, a lot of training. It's not something that you should just go right off the out and do. You need to have somebody show you how to do it. I was very fortunate. I got to spend about 20 years of my career handling and training police dogs. I got zero complaints about my partners. It was the best time of my career was working a dog.
So talking about, you said, so the dogs have their specific motivations.
Sure.
They're kind of limited in their capabilities and a whole bit. Me and Corey were actually wondering about this the other day. So you're in a scenario, lights flashing, lots of people, a lot of stuff moving around, but somehow that dog knows just who to go after.
Well, a lot of that's dumb luck.
There we go. So that answers the question. That's what we
No,
were wondering
well, it
about.
depends.
You watch those YouTube videos.
No,
and you're
it
like,
depends.
wow.
So they actually, we did some training where they kind of who's on the home team. Especially like my agency was fairly small. My dog knew everybody on my squad because we all work together. They smell everybody. They know. I mean, we're all on the same team.
So it's just by training.
Yeah, it's just by training, and if you really think about it, they're all pack animals.
Right.
So this is the pack.
Do you think they can tell uniforms?
There is some people say that they do. If that was the case, then why do cops get bit? It's just every dog is different. My first dog was completely different than my second dog. Actually, completely different thing. Because the first dog was a patrol dog. The second dog was a single-purpose detection dog. The third dog that I had, Turbo, he was a Belgian Malinois, and he was dual purpose. He was patrol and narcotics. That dog was freaking amazing. He was one of the rare dogs, and I'm not just kind of tooting my own horn, because that dog was special. He was good at both of his jobs, which was narcotics and patrol. Most of the time you'll see a dual purpose dog, and the dogs are still pretty good. They're good at what they do, but they'll excel in one or the other.
You can't be a pitcher and a hitter. At the same
Right,
time.
right.
You're
Well,
one or the other.
Dribble was both.
I don't know. That guy for the Angels, the pitcher and the hitter, didn't know those home runs.
We don't watch baseball anymore.
Oh, yeah.
I've heard about this.
What is this
person, but
baseball you speak of?
Dude, I forgot his name.
Baseball.
Derek Jeter, probably. I don't know.
Yeah, it's the
You
only
said
one.
Jeter.
Ken Griffey Jr. Was it Babe Ruth?
Something
I
like
think it
that.
was Babe Ruth. I saw the same lot. He said it sounds like that guy.
But what's funny is, so the best hunting dog, owner hunting dog that I've been able to train is actually Walter, my dachshund. What is a dachshund? A dachshund,
Close to the ground.
if you literally type in dachshund in the English to German translation, badger dog. He is genetically bred to go into a hole and fight a badger. He wants to. He hopes the badger's in there. He wants to have that fight. So right now our badgers are gophers because San Diego, and
Yeah.
we don't have a whole lot of them. But Walter is my best little hunter. He will hunt and hunt and hunt. And kind of give you an idea of how
How
a
big
dog
is Walter?
9 pounds. 9 pounds of thunder. Oh, geez.
So
maybe.
there's a difference between so the dachshunds you're talking about. Those are mini dachshunds, right?
Yeah,
There are
well,
full size.
Oh yeah, they're about
right?
40. They're 40 pounds.
Okay.
A full standard sized dachshund. Is
So
a
I've
big
told
dog.
people this before, and nobody believed me that the wiener dogs that we know, those are not. Those are mini dachshunds.
Yeah.
There's normal size. It is the weirdest look. It looks like a potato with some toothpicks.
Well, that's if
And-
they're fat. I mean, and
Well, the-
everybody overfeeds their dachshunds. They do. I mean, they should not be doing. They shouldn't have any fat rolls. I was kind of embarrassed. I was taking pictures for my company. My buddy Cameron was helping me. We were at Strategic Operations, which is a training facility over in San Diego, and they have a Black Hawk helicopter there. And I'm getting Walter to kind of poke his head up because we're taking pictures for the website. And my buddy Cameron goes, "Dude, your dog's got muffin top."
What a dick!
Well,
It's a dog. Come on.
But he did. He did. So Walter dropped a couple of pounds, and we got to figure for you know, a dachshund,
That's a
when you
large
drop 2
percentage.
pounds,
It's
that's
a
a
good
lot.
thing they don't know what's going on.
Well,
They'd have like a complex. Oh
well,
man,
so-
I'm soft around the outside.
Fat wiener.
Our vet, you know, last time I took Walter to the vet, they actually said, hey, this is like the second dachshund we've seen in our practice that came in as actually the proper weight. He's very lean, and that's why their backs get all jacked up.
So technically, you have the proper size wiener.
I do.
Good for you.
I know. It's something I've been trying for.
We strive. We all
I've strived for it.
He's made it.
I've mastered it.
Congratulations.
I've mastered the wiener size.
Yeah, but I would love for you to come over one of these days and sit back and see the temperament between the 3 dogs.
And they're all going to be different.
So I'm a little nerd when it comes to stuff like that because
Sure.
I watch how my female acts and how
Right.
the puppy kind of reacts. The puppy's kind of running the show now,
Right.
Because she's getting all the attention, and mom loves it because mom's there, and then the dad just doesn't give a crap about anything. He's the most.
Are we
tame-
talking like the dogs are the dogs that you have are the parents of the puppy?
Yeah.
Okay.
So people are like, don't do it, because usually, you know, mom and dad will always bully the baby. It
Depends.
Yeah, it kind of blows my mind because everyone's like, don't do it, and your male's intact, he's gonna be aggressive. My male is the most laid back dog.
Every single dog is. We have generalizations. You can say, okay, lots of times this happens, but the only thing that you can say in canine is there's never any nevers. It just doesn't happen. There's no always. It just depends.
Right.
You know, it really all depends. Genetics plays a big role in it. I'm very happy with my Black Lab's genetics. She's a fantastic dog. That's a dog that I would, you know, when and if I have grandchildren here, I would totally trust that dog with her, or that dog with those kids, because she's just that special dog. Walter as well. He'd be fine with it. He just wants to be, you know, wants to sit on your lap and have you pet him.
And
Here's
wants
a
to fight
good
badgers.
question
Yeah.
for the future with children. So my German Shepherd, since the first baby, became extremely protective. Once my wife got
Right.
pregnant,
Yeah, we were talking
became
about this. Yeah.
Extremely protective
Of her.
of her.
Right.
Even I was wrestling around with her to see what
Mhm.
happened. That dog went after me.
Sure. And
I got up in the middle of the night to pee, and she was standing on the bed when I came back.
it is amazing
Scared the shit out
what
of
they
me.
know. Well, I guarantee you, the dog smelled the difference. The dog knows that she's pregnant. There's something going on. They can detect the most minute things. I unfortunately had a friend of mine pass away about a month ago, and actually they ran dachshunds. They're it's the sport that we train pets to do for the detection work. It's called nose work, and the dogs are trained to find the essential oils of anise, birch, and clove. Because remember, the dog doesn't care what it's looking for. All the dog knows is, I smell like this, I smell this odor, I behave like this, I get what I want. They don't know that it's not looking for a bomb, it's not looking for cocaine. All I know is I get what I want if I do certain things. I find it, I sit, I stare, or I turn back and look, I do something that I've been trained to do, and I get what I want. Well, a good buddy of mine, Joe, he and his wife Dawn, salt of the earth people. They're just wonderful people, but they work and actually they have a standard sized dachshund, and they run a couple other minis. And one of the dogs, the dog that was closest to Joe, would not leave his side. And we kind of thought it was a training problem, because we call it ranging out, where the dog won't go out on its own.
Yeah.
Wouldn't be ranging out. Well, after and Dawn figured this out, she
the dog
figured like
knew.
he knew. He ended up having a tumor on his esophagus.
Jeez.
And so the dog, Lenny was his name, wouldn't leave his side. He was just, I'm not leaving, because they know. How many times have we heard things on, you know, social media or whatever, or just the media in general, where a dog is like, well, the dog kept, you know, a female breast cancer patient said the dog kept putting his nose on my breast, or nose on my throat, or wherever it was. They can pick it up.
Well, it makes complete sense given the evolution of dogs, right? Just because they started as their wolf breeds, whatever, and then the dogs we have now are a direct result of this. I think it's like 7 or 8 females from 10, 15,000 years ago that were now they've been selectively bred for all the different breeds, and they've been told, or basically they've been trained and genetically trained to be alongside people indefinitely. So that's why they kind of have their insights. They're to humans.
Well, it's also their olfactory senses. Their olfactory senses are absolutely amazing, where they can find things with their nose. And I don't know what the exact number is. when I've testified on stuff for Canine in court, especially when I was running specifically my dog, I would get asked things like, well, how much better of, smell does a dog have? I don't think there's a scientist in the world that can give you like it's 100 times, 200 times, 300 times, 10 times. I don't know the answer to that specifically with a number.
Differentiate between dogs,
right? And I will tell you, in breed,
Yeah.
but I will tell you this: what they can do is freaking amazing. It blows my mind constantly seeing what these dogs will do. I was up in LA yesterday certifying some of the LA County Sheriff's dogs with the California Narcotic Canine Association, and they have gun detection dogs that will locate firearms. You got to figure it's LA, and they've got a gang problem. But they also have electronic storage device dogs, which for pedophiles, also in jails too, because they're trying to get the cell phones, keep cell phones out. But the coding that is on the circuit boards is very specific, and from my understanding is that is what they're going with their imprint.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah. So so conformal coating is what it's called.
Okay.
It's basically just epoxy.
Right.
So I guess that does off gas a bit, but
Oh no, it off gases a lot. So
Sure.
do this. Go take your cell phone and put it in a jar. Okay, and just leave it in there overnight. Open it up and smell.
Smells like
It's
China.
going to be
Fried rice.
Well, so I work with epoxy all the
Sure.
time, and I have noted it has a very distinct smell to it. But it
See
just
the
it just
twitch-
it just
twitch to the
dawned
eyes.
on me like when you said the electronic device, like what the fuck are they looking for?
right.
Oh yeah, that makes sense. It is. I mean, I'm sure it varies slightly the different.
Well, we call it generalization.
chemicals, but yeah, I mean,
Well, so same thing with methamphetamine though. Methamphetamine, there's many different ways to make it, but the end result's the same.
so that just raised a question for me. Have you ever seen a dog high?
As a result of
And because of I'm not asking you if you got your dog high because that'd be a dick move. But have you ever seen a dog that's
I'm going to
high
ask
on
that
something?
question after you answer.
well,
the question.
so no, I've seen actually with the training accidents where a dog will get into a substance and it's never good. It does not give them a euphoric effect or anything like that. If a dog eats, I would say, marijuana, it does not. It's not something that they don't experience the same high as people do. They don't get it, and it actually can be fatal to them.
So I've seen this once where I had a roommate whose dog got into like 4 or 5 ounces of weed,
Right.
and ate it all.
Right.
And then the dog ended up being fine when they called the vet. Like, is my dog gonna die? Because it looked like it was on its way out. But basically, the dog, you could see his eyes were just moving all over
Right.
the place. The tongue's hanging out of the side of the mouth. She was laying down, and you go to pick her up just to set her up. That wouldn't happen. She's like Jello. Yeah. And it was a really scary thing to see, and that's just weed. I'm wondering, like, what does a dog on cocaine look like?
Well, it's different. So it sends them into cocaine, and we use cocaine and meth. They're both stimulants.
Yeah.
It'll send them into cardiac issues. They'll start convulsing. It is not good. I've only seen that once. Thank God, because we take steps to protect them from getting in contact with this. And we know fentanyl is a huge problem.
That was my next question.
Yeah,
so.
well, a very small amount of fentanyl, and we carried Narcan with us when we were doing searches, because if they accidentally got into it, we could give them the Narcan immediately. I mean, having it with us.
Is it just IM?
No, nasal spray.
And
They
you
use
have
the
to
same.
train them to do it?
No, it's the same that we do.
But you have to train a dog to shove the thing up his nose and squirt.
No, oh no, we do.
Well, the dog doesn't
The dog's
do it on
out.
itself.
Yeah, dogs can be screwed up.
They don't have. It's this little thing called thumbs, Corey. So
Dogs
they
don't
don't
have
them.
them, so that's what
Right.
was my question.
Yeah. Yeah. So
Dew claws.
yeah,
Wait.
they do, unless they've been removed. Yes.
So I think he's asking, like, if you get exposed, can
Right.
the dog give you the Narcan?
No.
Oh.
No, they wouldn't.
Well,
you would
I
hope
mean,
that your beef
that seems
partner-
like a big opportunity for you to teach your dog how to give
Yeah,
Narcan.
that's a long process. No, one of the
So I
coolest
accept
things.
royalties, by the way. So.
Okay, I'll remember that. I have been able to do a lot of really cool things in my career in law enforcement. I was very fortunate to have special assignments pretty much from. I started in '97 with Chula Vista PD, and by the way, all my opinions are mine, not reflection of.
You're
any
retired.
others.
Who gives a shit?
Yeah,
Yeah,
good
it's-
point. But I just want to make sure. And I worked for the San Diego County Marshal from 1989 to 1997. I was a field service officer, which is basically I went around serving. I was a county process server. If I was coming, it was bad news. You were getting sued, you're getting evicted, you had to go to court, something. It was not fun to see me. I went to a small police academy and was promoted to bailiff status, which was, it was a peace officer position, so I got to be Rusty the bailiff, but I got to be very comfortable in a courtroom setting. Courtrooms freak out a lot of people. You see officers testify and they're just like a chocolatey mess. But that was my career. I was very comfortable in there. I left the county marshal in '97, went to Chula Vista PD, went through a regular police academy with them. And so it was a patrol from 97 to 99. 99 I went to our gang suppression unit. Was there for about a year and a half, then a canine spot opened up, and of course I put in for that because that's what I'd always wanted to do. I got it, got with that first dog, and so like my whole career has been wrapped around dogs. So I got to work that dog Bob. I worked him for 5 years. Went to got promoted to the next rank up from officer, which we call agent. We just call it corporal because it's 2 stripes on your sleeve. Went into our narcotics unit, started a narcotics canine program there. I got a black lab named Snitch. Yeah, I named her. That was a good name.
It's appropriate.
Yeah, it was,
I'm okay with it.
It was pretty cool. Rotated out of that narcotics spot. Spent 7.5 years there. Fantastic, great assignment. Learned so much.
It's all done with the border.
Yeah, in Chula Vista. I mean, that's a fantastic city to work in.
And Chula Vista is the 3rd largest police force in San Diego County?
Yeah. Of state and local. So no, well, Highway Patrol. I don't think.
Nah, we don't
beats
care about
us.
CHP.
CHPs are good. They're good dudes. But
We like CHP.
Oh, we got a couple. Actually, no. Like seriously, though, we get a handful of Chips guys in here, and they've actually kind of shifted my general view of police officers.
Joe didn't have a very good view of police officers until he came in here.
But I understand why. I mean, I get it.
All right.
So yeah, I guess our first conversation was slightly combative. I guess.
No, it wasn't.
Go ahead.
We'll probably get into that in a little bit, but we'll stick with the dog stuff for now. I mean, I worked in our narcotics unit, then I went back into our gang suppression unit. But I took my narc dog with me, and I focused on interdiction. 7 miles from the border. I got really good at finding compartments in cars. So I got really good. I was really good at finding the compartments. I was really good at getting to them. Putting stuff back in mechanical work, I'm gonna be honest, it's not my thing.
Yeah, that's not your job. You just find them and tear them apart. That's other people's work.
I was trying to put stuff back because I was always like, okay, maybe some detective can use this car or whatever, but yeah, that was not my. Apparently that skips a generation because my dad's really good at that. I'm
You ever
not.
called him?
Yeah, that was not my best. And then when I I was on a federal task force for the last 6 years of my career, and I had a single purpose dog there, a big 90-pound lab, just the sweetest guy ever. His name was Cooper, and he was just he looked like he was in the SHU unit in prison, was doing push-ups. He was so buff. He was but the biggest, dorkiest dog ever. I mean, he was just
a detection?
sweet, yeah, single purpose detection dog. But man, he would hunt and hunt and hunt.
So here's a question I have.
Sure.
So, being in the service, me and Corey and James were in the service. You watch movies,
sure,
right? Military movies, and they're kind of not enjoyable because you're like, no, that's wrong, kind of a thing. And I watch science movies.
Okay.
I ended up being an engineer. I look at kind of the same thing.
Is this going to be a Turner and Hooch question?
Well, no. What it's going to be is like, so you watch dog movies. You're like, you watch Air Blood, and you're like, yeah, that's bullshit. Is that a thing you do where you watch?
No,
I mean just dog stuff in general.
No, when I see something like Air Bud, I kind of go, okay, how long did that take him to train that dog to do that? Because what I was talking about, the cool things that I got to do in my assignment was the coolest thing I got to do in my assignment has nothing to do with police dogs, and it was because of police dogs I got to do it, which was go down and watch some of the stuff that the Navy Mammal Program was doing, and I was floored by what they do and why they do what they do. And one of the really cool things I got to see was the sea lion take a little bite plate with a hook on it, like a clamp, and go over.
I don't know if you should talk about that.
And do stuff. It's like, no, it's not clearance.
Our gunsmith is.
I know,
Okay.
but It
Well,
was
now I'm curious.
No,
What's-
it is real. No,
There's lots of things they can do. That's one of them.
No. That's but I'm not talking about anything classified. I know classified stuff.
No, you're gonna tell us.
No. I had TS clearance, so I'm not.
Yeah.
I know what I can and can't say.
He's still contracting. So
No, well,
he needs that.
but it was really awesome to watch this sea lion be able to go down or go to an attachment point on. They had a missile console or a cone there, and it has an attachment point, and they taught that sea lion to go over and put the clamp on it, but then they taught it to check it to make sure the clamp was on. And I looked over at the program director, and I'm like, hey, how long did that take? And he said 3 months to teach that dog that behavior. I'm like, that's a long
Water
time.
dog.
Right. Yeah, and I go, and he goes, but when you have a piece of military equipment that's, let's say it's an airplane, it's $30 million, and you don't want it going into somebody else's hands, you're going to spend that time to do it.
Takes longer to teach a pilot.
Right. It is amazing what we can do with animals in general. But that was
Did you see the
such a
dolphins
cool,
as well?
Oh yeah. And what's funny about the dolphins, and actually the sea lions too, is all the people that protest about how terrible their living conditions are and how they can leave whenever they freaking want.
And
They're
they do.
putting them out. No, they've never lost one.
Oh, they come back.
Yeah, they always come back.
It's free food. Why would
Right?
you leave?
Why would you leave? Exactly. They don't. There's none of. It's easy street. You don't have to go out and hunt. They're gonna feed you.
Yeah.
You go out, do your job. They're gonna feed you. It's like, this is fantastic. I think they had a dolphin that was part of the program in Vietnam. It just died like 2 years ago.
Yeah, we were actually talking about this recently, and they can live for a very long time.
Especially when they're as well taken care of as they are. That was a really cool thing too. Is that those dolphins? They go up onto a mat. The vet checks them every week. They do a blood draw. They are the most well taken care of animals. If they want to leave, they can go. We don't put leashes on them. We don't do anything like that. They can go. I know there's a lot of classified stuff that those guys can do, and it's amazing stuff.
I also can't believe how strong they are.
Yeah.
I went swimming in Cancun, swimming with the dolphins. That thing took my fat ass out of the water and threw me like 100 feet. I was like, whoa.
That's an exaggeration.
No.
Unbelievable.
I got it on Facebook. It's
Hey.
got me.
You're 100 feet. 5 feet tops.
There we go.
5.
But couldn't believe
Remember,
how strong.
This is 6 inches.
Oh yeah, he has
Yeah.
a hard time with 8 inches. I get it.
No hard time with me. But I
It is that was honestly one of the highlights of my career, because being able to do that, going, okay, I can train a dog, and we've been doing that for years. But how about with Navy, with a mammal program? I mean, just Shamu and all that other stuff. It's absolutely mind-boggling what we can do when we understand how to train them right.
So how often does let me see if I can get the question right. So basically a lot of what you're doing is just behavioral science.
Yeah.
Right.
Mhm.
And then how often does that end up kind of making its way into just psychology or just human behavioral science?
Or children.
It's
Or
actually,
children specifically,
it's
yeah.
funny. It's like, so we tell our handlers when we get a new handler, hey, talk to this dog like it's a 2 or 3 year old. And one of the best guys that I had do that was a former offensive lineman for Chicago Bears. Huge mountain of a man. Nicest guy in the world, but he had a degree in child psychology, and he really understood how to praise a dog and talk to a dog. If you want to see a bunch of grown men with super high pitched voices, go out to a canine training field, and you're going to hear, "Oh, what a good boy, good dog, come on, buddy."
On Live PD, that's all they're
Right.
doing the whole time.
Right. Well, don't get me started on my PD, but
Live PD.
yeah.
I love that show.
what's wrong with it?
Don't get me.
Oh, if you guys only knew.
Well, it's like how you were talking about doing stuff for you're not allowed to watch military movies. I'm not allowed to watch cops or anything related to my house, because I started screaming and yelling at the TV. I'm like, don't turn your back on him. You would never put that dog up. That's not a dog call. It gets kind of pathetic, so I'm not allowed to watch stuff like
Gotcha.
that.
Yeah.
It's just for the same.
So I figured there was somewhere in there that you're like, yeah, it's just not fun for me.
No,
I
I don't. I see it enough. I don't need to relive it on watching TV. And some of the stuff I see is I'm embarrassed. I'm embarrassed from my former profession, because you're like, oh, dude, really? That's not sad.
So, off topic a little bit.
Okay.
I wanted to be a canine handler growing up. That's why I joined the military. I went into MEPS going, hey, I want to be an MA, Master at Arms. I want to be a canine handler.
Your recruiter lied to you?
Oh yeah, don't get me started on that. It's a whole.
We talked about that last time.
I heard that episode.
Big bag of bitches.
So for the people who are trying to be a canine handler in the future, the steps, I'm guessing, get onto a police force, put your couple years in, and then the avenues to start opening up. Or?
Well, you have to wait for a position to open, and it depends on where you're at. So, fortunately, here, I'll give San Diego PD a shout out. They got a huge unit, and San Diego Sheriffs too. They have a lot of dogs. We have, I think I did a count probably 3 or 4 years ago. Just locally, like municipally owned and state dogs, we have about 110 dogs somewhere in this state. And I'm not talking about including the federal dogs. I'm not talking about like Customs and Border Protection. I'm not talking about Border Patrol. I'm not talking about the military. I'm just talking about state and local. California peace officers with dogs.
Wow.
That seems like not that many.
Well, when you think like LAPD, the LAPD actually has a much smaller unit. They only have like a 24, 25 dogs.
Well, so you're saying just here in San Diego has 100 dogs?
San Diego Police Department, I want to say, probably has, at one time they had 57 dogs. I don't know where they're at now.
That's a shit ton.
Yeah, it's a lot.
I'm just saying there's 40 million people in California.
Right.
And it's kind of based off
it's a rough number.
Well, so
all right,
what I'll give you why San Diego PD's unit got so big. In the late 80s, early 90s, there was a lot of officer-involved shootings with non-traditional weapons. One that sticks out. I mean, I've lived here since 1983, and I was
say one of those was like a ninja star or something like that.
It was actually cement trowel. Okay. So the cement trowel, they were like, okay, what can we do to reduce our numbers of officer-involved shootings? Right. Well, ban cement trowels.
Yes.
That's the first thing we have to do is ban cement trowels. We all know that because that works.
That's why my father-in-law's concrete company went out of business.
Right.
He couldn't draw anymore.
So on that point, during when the La Mesa riots and stuff were going on, or just riots in general were possible, I was listening to a police scanner a lot just to know if I needed to, arm up or whatever.
Get your cement trowel out.
Yeah, get my cement trowel, my ninja stars out so I could deal with them. But so I was listening to police scanner, and come to find out there's a lot of domestic violence in San Diego.
Yes. That's probably one of the most.
That's the one I recognize the most. Like I recognize the code and kind of how the officers behaved.
That's
when they
the
were going out
most
to those.
common one, and it's probably the most dangerous.
So we're
That's
getting
what we
to that.
always hear.
So I'm listening to the one, and I hear the officer rolls up, and you kind of hear some scuffling over the radio, and then someone asked for like a status. He's like, yeah, she looks like she threw a fish tank at him. And the dispatcher's like, did you say a fish tank?
Yeah.
Roger, that's a fish tank. So now we got to ban fish tanks, right?
Sure, absolutely should.
All right, sorry, that was off topic.
No, I get it. No. I mean, listening to scanners is entertaining to say the least. But what happened with San Diego is that they realized that as soon as they started bringing this asset of a dog involved, they dropped their officer-involved shootings massively. Because most of the time you show up with a dog, people are like, okay, I can point a gun at you and they know that I'm probably not going to shoot you. But a dog can de-escalate a situation pretty quickly. And it is typically a lesser use of level of force. It is a less than lethal option. And it meets many different levels of the use of force continuum. Just the mere presence of a dog barking, just the showing up with the black and white and having the dog barking in the back, a lot of times we don't know how to ask them. Right. Well, we don't get to walk up to the guy and go, hey, the reason that you gave up, was it because you heard the dog barking? Those aren't stats that are kept. And most of the time crooks aren't going to. Well, but the crooks aren't most of the time are going to be honest with us.
They're just by their nature.
Yeah,
they're not.
We have this
They're kind of
nice guys.
undependable.
Yeah.
Exactly. But they're such a great asset on situations like that. They're not the end all be all. Like taking a dog to an active shooter call is probably a bad idea. They're more of a liability than anything else. You don't bring a dog to a gunfight. Now, if you have lots of friends that showed up with guns, okay, bring them, because now you have other people with guns.
Yeah, we've seen like Cairo where they strap a camera on them,
right,
and send them in.
So they're really good at softening up areas for us. Like our bread and butter was area searches and searches for burglar alarms and things like that, or like our burglaries that had just occurred.
So like if this alarm went off at night,
right,
and there's a canine unit around, you would probably show up with a canine unit.
No, you probably would, especially if knowing what kind of store this
Yeah.
is. But unless there was a sign of forced entry, we're probably not going to send the dog in because the mere fact that
the door's open.
one of the just the door, even if the door is just unlocked, one of you yahoos is probably passed out back and drunk and back drunk. So we're
It's me.
probably
It's going to be me.
and that
Send
has
the dog
happened.
in.
It's just
It
a
won't
weird
be
thing I
more.
like to do. I like
Well,
to
the
get
only
drunk
reason
and
I
play
kind
around
of
the
bring up
gun
that
store.
scenario is that actually happened,
Yeah.
and we have kind of case law on that now. But if there is
Is it illegal to be drunk in a gun store?
no,
Okay, good.
No.
That's great news.
Close.
well, listen, I've been retired since June, so that may have changed since.
And now that I've said that,
I
it's
don't
like
know.
July. Laws change in July.
So I mean, it could be, but typically on like if I saw a shattered glass, okay, yeah, and there's a possibility, especially in a store like this, send the dog in, let the dog get shot. Not as the handler, the last thing that we want to do is have our dog get hurt. But that's what we train for. Dogs are replaceable, people are not.
Bullshit.
Well,
Well, that's why he does what he does, and you
Yeah,
do
I
what you do. That's
See, I'd
why
much
it
rather
works.
see somebody get shot than an animal.
Right, and that actually goes for suspects as well. A suspect life is more valuable than human life. No matter who it is more valuable than the dog. I love my dogs. I get it, guys, but I love my dog. Nobody loves their dog more than the handler because that's their partner. Our dogs live with us. You know, they're with us all the time, and we train them. That's our
It's
job.
family. It's your family.
But when it comes down to it, human life, no matter whose life it is, outweighs that of the dog.
Well, just to explain that, like that philosophy as well. When we were talking about, you see the same dude come in, overdosed on something, you're still going to treat him 100% of the time. It's actually the exact same idea because we're the same species, so we're just compelled to
Depends.
perpetuate our.
It's easy to think it for sure.
Depends if it's my dog.
Yeah, it's
with
easy to
James
think
here.
it, but it's honestly it's a hard thing. I have sent my dogs into situations where I was like, okay, and thank God that things came out the way they did, and guys gave up, and dog came out fine. But we have had dogs get stabbed. We have had dogs get shot. And you can read the Officer Down Memorial page. They have it for dogs as well. Especially as of late, there's been a lot of dogs that have been shot and killed.
Is there like a specific reason for that?
It's
you think?
becoming a very violent world out there, and the actual respect for law enforcement and authority in general, and not just law enforcement itself, but let's look at schools. Let's look at just society in general. Just authority in general. We have an absolute, and it's quite honestly pretty disgusting, some of the stuff that you see. And then you see some of the people who are pushing these ideals of there was that teacher who was recently, I think, letting go because he had an Antifa flag, and he's actually talking about brainwashing our kids.
I just read about that too.
And 180
that
days to bring
right,
out your kids.
and that is absolutely infuriating. And you want to know why parents don't trust the teachers? Now, my mom is a teacher. I have very close friends that are teachers. My daughter-in-law is a teacher. I have nothing but the most respect for the teachers because I have been around some fantastic teachers. But then you have, and just like law enforcement, you have those few bad apples that are just, I mean, you can do a screening process all you want. We can do background checks. We can do all that kind of stuff. Somebody's going to slide through.
Always.
I mean, look at every single profession. People are going to slide
Even
through.
the top tier professions.
Oh, yeah.
Always.
Right. I mean, and even I think the FBI's biggest arrest was for espionage was their counter espionage guy. He was actually a spy.
So, going back to you can clearly see a lack of respect for authority and things of that sort. Why do you think that is? Why do you think it's why do you think it's such a big thing now as opposed to say 20 years ago?
I can answer that.
Okay.
Because now everyone goes online and they think that they have the power to do anything.
Well, there's the anonymity. Am I saying that right?
Anonymity.
Thank you. That's a
All
hard
right,
one.
I got you back for the.
Yeah, there you go. But for the keyboard warrior syndrome,
Yeah.
you know, like the Facebook combat ribbon that they have, the keyboard warrior band.
I've got 4 leaf clovers or
Yeah,
clover leaves
Those
on
are Blue
mine.
Falcon
Yeah.
ones. Those are
Yeah, I know what Blue Falcon is.
I am the bluest falcon when I'm online.
I would say it all kind of starts out at home. And it's not saying people coming from a broken family or anything like that. And it doesn't matter what race, creed, orientation, whatever pronoun you want to be called. It has just a respect for your parents.
I think a lot of people are going to look at this. This is our second podcast, and it's going to say, and they're going to say, it's so easy for 4 white guys to sit around a table and say
Sure.
that.
Wait,
Sure,
you're not Mexican?
No, and actually, it's kind of funny because whenever I would do a traffic stop or something like that, somebody started talking to me in Spanish. I'm like, I tried. Like when you talk about the
Mucho rapido.
I can get you out of your car at gunpoint. I can do a hot stop. I've done more hot stops in Spanish
And you know
than I have.
how to ask where the bathroom is.
Yes, and I can order a burrito like there's no tomorrow.
And a beer.
Yeah.
That's it.
Well, I can't have beer when I'm working. But I'm not working anymore because I'm now retired. But
Hashtag sensible candy.
having, I actually say that I would beg to differ. But there's 4 white guys here, but I can tell you right now, there's people. All we see on social media and all we see are loud voices. 90% of the 80% roughly, I think, kind of all agree with us that it all starts at home.
So one of the reasons we started this podcast was to not have 4 white guys sitting here.
Right.
We're
Well, I'm
starting
actually
with
Romanian gypsy, so
Okay,
yeah.
so we have a gypsy.
Yeah.
Here. So we want to have everybody. We'd like to have law enforcement side. I would like to have somebody from BLM here.
Oh, I would love
wanna
to.
know-
I want to get into their mind, or
Because
not in their
I
mind. I
don't
want to
think-
understand because all that we get is screaming and yelling on TV.
Exactly.
And
Let's just sit here and have
because,
a conversation.
as long as we can say because we disagree doesn't mean I hate you.
Exactly.
Right.
I disagree with you, but I respect you as a human being.
But 90% of the things we probably agree on.
Well, yeah, I would
There's a
think so.
very small percentage of things
you're-
we will disagree.
If I disagree on your political views, doesn't mean I think you're a bad person. I think you
No.
probably voted for the wrong guy. But I also think that you're probably probably pretty articulate. You take care of your family. That's a big deal. We have so many broken homes. It doesn't matter what ethnic background you have. The lack of parenthood, people taking responsibility for their children.
Well, that's always going to be the biggest driver for someone's success. It turns out they do studies on this all the time, and it basically, if you don't have a stable home life, typically with 2 parents, your chance of one going to jail skyrockets.
Oh, absolutely.
Well,
You're-
tell us why you can't do the podcast on tomorrow or the next day. What do you do?
I don't remember what did I tell you. I might have lied to you.
He probably.
Oh no, yeah, every Tuesday night is family dinner at my house. So
Your kids are older.
yeah, my kids are older. They moved out, but I want them home.
Mhm.
And it was actually my oldest kid's idea.
Mhm.
And of course, my wife wants them home. I want them home. I want to know what's
See what's going on.
So they come home. We share a meal together. We play games. I usually fall asleep on the couch.
That's what you're supposed to do. You're
Yeah,
retired.
yeah, retired. But it's really cool I have one that's still in school, and everything's online, which is kind of convenient for him right now because the college that he's going to is up in North County, and it saves him a ton of money from having to drive. But he finishes his class at about 6:45 and gets to come out and finish eating dinner with us. And Family is very important too. Is extremely important, but I would say that you have your ohana too. The family you choose. The people that are not blood.
People you surround yourself
Right,
with.
right. The people that
Right here.
I have one of my best friends. I know I could knock at his door at 2:00 in the morning. Can be thunder and lightning behind me. I can be covered in blood and go, dude, I need a shovel, a bag of lye, and a blue tarp. And he will actually say,
Is everyone paying attention? That's how you do that.
but I guarantee you,
No pigs involved? I thought there was pigs.
this one.
Hold on, he said he had a TS, so we got.
Yeah, we're not
there's
talking
only
about-
so much he
Yeah.
can say.
Sea lions.
But see, dolphins.
That's what those hooks were for. That's why we couldn't talk about it.
But I guarantee you, this certain friend will go, "Oh, I already have the spot."
Yeah.
Whose truck are we driving? I'm like, well, no, we're gonna go steal a truck because we're not using either of ours.
He's got digging equipment, this one, so you're getting a phone
But you
call.
have to have.
If you can get my dog to downstay, I'll bury whatever you need.
Okay, you said
You said it on camera, so you can't go
But
back.
I would say you need to have a core group of people, and that core group of people needs to be kind of diverse. If you don't have, if everybody is like you, where's the spice? You know.
Well, so that goes to
didn't
that's
bring
so
the spice in
that's
with
an
you.
that's an idea too. That's I think probably the biggest problem the internet causes for people is confirmation bias.
Right.
If you're around everyone saying the same thing, you start to believe that it's true. And that's why, like again, why we kind of started this. I like talking to people that think as far from the way I think as
Right,
possible.
yeah.
Just because
It makes sense.
What's the definition of confirmation bias?
like the textbook definition?
just
So if you believe an idea, if you hear someone else that also believes that idea, you tend to think that it's true. The internet is a horrible place for that.
Is a confirmation bias.
It is, and one of the other things I think that goes along with the internet is this constant 24-hour pounding of bad news over and over.
Well, it's
and over
information
and over.
overload. It kind of goes. I was trying to circle back to this.
Okay.
So I do wonder. So the obvious idea of kind of why things are sort of degrading is the family dynamic is changing, not for the better. I'm curious. Do you think, say like law enforcement, do you think they bear some responsibility for this lack of respect for their profession?
I think there's a pendulum, because we went through this in the 60s and the 70s, and we kind of forgot about that. Have there been some incidences that were unsatisfactory? Absolutely. But this idea that cops are perfect, no matter what profession, no matter what profession you're in, they're not. Nobody hates a bad cop more than a good cop. So we'll use let's go with the hot topic of Floyd. Okay. Yeah, I'm going there. How could that have done better? Well, for me, from my training, get Floyd on his side. We don't put people face down; they can't breathe. Okay, I've had people.
To be fair to what's his name, Derek Chauvin,
right?
The guy started complaining about not being able to breathe as soon as he showed up.
I've been there.
A point I kind of want to make on that. I didn't see the officer did anything necessarily wrong. What he reminded me of was just a dude that was just jaded by his profession, and that's why he didn't react.
It can be.
You know what I mean?
No, I get it. I mean, I totally understand that where that point could be done. Now, there is also the flip side of that, which is from what I understand, that's what they were trained to do, which was to wait for medics. But I can tell you that positional asphyxiation is something that at least I was in law enforcement for 31 years, and as long as I can remember, we talked about positional asphyxiation, putting people on their side, they need to be able to breathe. I've had people tell me over and over again, I can't breathe, I can't breathe, I can't breathe. And the thing about, if you're talking, you can breathe. We know that's actually not right. You actually can talk and not be able to breathe. Am I correct?
He kind of does things.
I'm a respiratory therapist.
Yeah, so it's like, but am I correct on that? Yes.
You have to be able to move air past your vocal cords
Right.
in order to breathe, in order to talk.
In order to talk.
However, you
can't
can
move air past your vocal cords
But
unless you have air.
You can have.
So you could have a little bit of air left.
Right. That's what
And then you're not going to breathe after that.
Okay. But that's when they're telling you,
So
I
if he
can't
goes,
breathe.
I can't.
Right.
That's it.
But the thing is that we're supposed to be protecting life, and protecting people's property is secondary.
Even if they're bad guys.
Even if they're bad guys. That's, one of the things I'm actually kind of most proud of in my career was my ability to turn the switch. Going from getting into a really nasty fight with a guy, getting him in handcuffs, and then turning him over going, are you okay? Do you need an ambulance?
I've seen that on live PD.
Right.
It is interesting to watch.
And it's one of those kind of, and I don't know if it's genetics or whatever, but I'm able to just turn it off and not take it personally.
Now, what about when you get home?
So hypervigilance is a big problem. I wish I read a book after about 9 years in law enforcement. It's called Emotional Survival for Law Enforcement. And what's really nice about it was it's actually a really big font, and it actually made me feel.
Book?
There might be.
What's it called again?
Emotional Survival for Law Enforcement. and it talks about hypervigilance. And this kind of actually, I think you guys in the military will understand it as well.
Yes.
That's definitely a thing that,
Right.
especially it's why the Afghanistan thing is really hitting home
Sure.
right now. It's
A
the
lot of
exact
people-
Let's
psychology.
switch gears to Afghanistan right now.
Okay.
Go ahead.
So I'll give you the
I don't wanna think about it, but let's
my
go ahead.
military career is this. I'm an Army brat. I was born in Germany, in Augsburg, Germany. My dad was 10th Group Special Forces.
You're a gypsy
yeah.
from Germany.
Yeah, no, I'm born on an Army base, so that makes me a U.S. citizen.
He's American.
American all the way. Dad is SF 10th Group, 46 Company.
Cool.
So Dad's a badass.
How old is your father?
74.
He here in town?
Yeah, no, he's in Louisiana.
Oh,
That's,
is
if you're
is he
Green
okay?
Beret,
He's okay. He's fine. He's fine. And trust me, even if everybody else wasn't fine,
he'd be in a hut
Dad's
somewhere.
fine. Dad's fine. He probably put on 10 pounds by now because nobody else. He's not having to work.
Is he after Vietnam?
No, he was in.
As a Green Beret.
He has a Bronze Star with Valor, I've finally gotten him in the last couple of years to open up and talk about things.
My uncle's the same way.
Dad won't talk about it, but it's funny. He won't talk to me, but he'll talk to my kids. He'll talk to my boys.
It's weird, huh?
Well, I guess it's probably the grandchildren thing. So that I had a ninth grade. I was in JROTC, and that's as far as my military career went because I started with our county marshal when I was 18.
That's the same as Joe's military career.
and-
ROTC and then Air Force, the same thing.
Basically, the same thing,
yeah.
As a Cub Scout, effectively.
But see,
Brownie.
I had met my wife when I was 17, and I'm like, I'm not leaving this to go into the military. So, and I already had a really good job. And quite honestly, working for the county.
And
for
she
7
agreed?
years. Yeah, I know. Right?
She married him.
I know. Again,
She's not making great decisions. here.
we talked about this. we talked about the decision making process here. So when I had military and law enforcement have kind of we feel a brotherhood, I think.
Sure.
Yes, of
Because
course.
paramilitary organization, I would say probably a lot of the guys I work with are veterans. I have the utmost respect for them. My dad was active duty, I would say, for 12 years, and then reserve for like 7 or 8 after that, and he was SF. So he worked for he got in law enforcement after he got out of the military, and then divorces and things happened, and he got out, got back into it later on in his career as he got older. But with what I've seen with talking to the guys that I know, and in my own personal opinions, is I get getting out of Iraq or Afghanistan, how it was done. I'm not a logistics guy, but that was a shit show.
Oh, I don't think it takes an expert to show like it was an absolute fucking mess. But
Like
100%.
normally,
I don't think it could
correct
have
me
been
if I'm
done
wrong.
worse.
You typically don't abandon your air base without getting your people out first, and then we definitely don't hand a list of the people who helped us to the people who are probably going to kill them.
So the even
Well,
on that
we
front,
were working together at the time.
Right.
yeah. I
With
think
Delta.
the bigger issue that's coming from that is, so I was in the Air Force like when I was on active duty from 02 to 06, kind of in the midst of all the really big stuff that was going on, and you obviously I've encountered a lot of people that served in Afghanistan, specifically, typically Marines would deploy there, and so they have Army rotation, stuff like that. From what I'm gathering from the people that I know, from the stuff I'm reading online, like, I don't get why anyone would ever join the military ever again. All these guys they feel so abandoned and just set aside with all that hard work, everything they went through was just tossed to the side.
Well, something I hope they understand too. So me as a lay person, I never military. I can tell you that since we went in there, and I know we just left, but we haven't had another 9/11 on our soil. So I don't think it was for naught.
Because we're there.
Right. Oh, I agree. Are we going to have another one?
We
Probably.
will. Absolutely.
We will, and it's kind of disheartening how quickly America forgot.
Yeah, especially when we're 10 days away.
Yeah, and we have to realize that the Taliban is celebrating 9/11 in the U.S. Embassy
Yeah.
because we left it.
Yeah.
We should have never left. We should have kept that base.
Well, so what I'm getting at is like I don't get why anyone would join the military now. Is like this the whole thing is being compared to the Vietnam conflict.
Sure.
In the same way, like we did like 55,000 American soldiers were killed in Vietnam.
Mm-hmm.
Which have you been to the Vietnam Memorial?
Yes.
And I knew about it. You know that number, and you know about that memorial.
Yeah.
And it was just like 2-3 years ago. I went to DC with my daughter.
Right.
And I had never been to the Vietnam Memorial, and I went, and when you see that wall, and you're like, oh, that's what 50,000 names looks like.
Yeah.
That actually it hit me really hard, just how much of that.
When I went to that same memorial, I went with my oldest son. I was chaperoned the trip, the 9th grade trip to, or 8th grade trip to DC. They were adding another name because I don't know exactly what this member of our military died from, but it was attributed to the conflict in Vietnam, and they were adding his name. So you know how it kind of goes down into that little, it goes like a little hillside. They were and they have spaces for more people.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know. I remember the patriotic mindset that we all had after 9/11. I can tell you exactly where I was, what I was doing. I was working.
I don't think anyone can tell you
I
exactly what was
I was in
going
an 800
on.
block of river lawn. I was dealing with a drunk guy who was passed out in his front yard because the neighbors called on him, and me and my cover officer were like, "Hey, Billy, get back inside your house." You know, he's drawing all over himself. But then our it was kind of like 6 o'clock in the morning or close to the end of our shift, and our dispatcher came over on the air and says, per 100 Lincoln was the watch commander, all units are clear to go find a television and watch the news, because we weren't aware of it. We had no idea what was going on. We had no idea that one plane had hit one of the towers. So myself and my partner went up to our union building, which had a big TV. It's at the north end of the city, and me and my partner turned on the TV. Second plane hit, and that was, you know, I remember how everybody was unified, and it has taken 20 years for them to forget that unification. Is something big going to happen? I think people will always join the military, and people will always join law enforcement out of a sense of duty.
Yeah, and that's kind of what I was getting to is, so Vietnam happened.
Sure.
And you know, the idea, fool me once, you know, shame
Right.
on you, and then now it's happened again. So I'm wondering.
I don't know necessarily it's as bad as it was, the hatred for Vietnam. I remember talking to my dad about it a little bit. You know, I don't think anybody's calling them baby killers. I mean, I don't know if they are or not. I mean,
probably be surprised.
I put it this way: at this point, I wouldn't be shocked, because of the actual evil and nastiness that's out there, especially with people being able to hide behind a keyboard and do stuff like that, or even protests. But it comes in a pendulum. I think if you look at society in America, let's go the last couple of decades. So let's go from the 60s. Okay, 60s hippie movement, anti-law enforcement. We lost more cops in, I think the highest year that we had was 1977, where officers were murdered. I want to say it was like 100, and it was a high 170, somewhere in that neighborhood. And that was the beginning of, you know, the anti-law enforcement movement. And then California struck down the death penalty. We got easy on crime. We started releasing people. Well, what happens in the 80s? We have this massive crime spike. Okay. Now, I've read the book Freakonomics. Love that book.
Yeah, it's a good one.
It's a good one, but and the author is basically a statistician, and we kind of correlate the drop in crime to Roe v. Wade, which, you know, may or may not be it. We don't know. And that's the thing I like about him is he was like, I don't know, but this is what the numbers say. I like people who go, hey, this is I'm not biased either way, but this is what the numbers say. But then we start getting this kind of, okay, we have the crack epidemic happen. Gang shootings, we have Bloods versus Crips, we have homicides going off the chart, but then we start getting tough on crime because people have had enough. We start doing things like passing 3 strikes, which is what we had done before.
Well, so
Stop and frisk is a little different though. So, you have to have, in order to stop and detain somebody, specific and articulable facts. Okay, it's called reasonable suspicion. Okay, that's what we need to detain somebody. meaning that reasonable suspicion is specific and articulable facts that a crime is about to occur, has occurred, or is going to occur. You have to be able to articulate that. That's to detain somebody. Now, then you have the Terry pat down, Terry versus Ohio. I have to come up with additional reasons why I'm going to pat you down for weapons. And it, on a bunch of different circumstances, it depends on what's going on at that time. And then there's probable cause for the arrest, things like that. So it comes in this pendulum because we're looking at, like, okay, so the 90s, we started getting tough on crime. We passed 3 strikes. 90% of the crime is committed by about 10% of the people. Most of the people out there are really good people. You know, they're the ones who are coming home after working 12 hours and trying to put food on the table. Most of the people out there are really good people. Then we have that element. And then there's that little element of that element that are going to fight you every time. That's the 3%.
So it kind of moves to the point I was getting at, where, so I don't know the context of 1977 where things got pretty bad, but I do know, I mean, the whole crack epidemic wasn't like a just weird cultural shift against American civilians.
Sure.
That was a government-led effort where Reagan was the whole Iran-Contra thing.
Yep,
and so they fucked that up. Now they fucked it up huge, and then Bill Clinton came in and said, well, we gotta get tough on not on the government idea, but on the people that result from it.
Right.
And that's my point is, I don't think we're ever gonna have unpatriotic Americans, especially. Americans are very proud people. We forged our own country because we didn't like what was happening, and we were just naturally rebellious. Where we're having trouble is with government officials. They're fucking things up, and then they're trying to fix their fuck ups by fucking up even more. And that's the result. That's where Afghanistan comes from, is that exact thing.
There's a great example of one of our county supervisors right now.
Where I was with Agent Fletcher.
And
That dude sucks.
all of the people that are getting up and speaking. And
What bothers me the most about him, and I can speak freely, is he used to be conservative, and he is, if I'm not mistaken, is he not a combat Marine veteran?
Well,
I don't know enough about him.
He is a Marine veteran
But
with combat experience.
So they were shooting within a proximity kind of a thing.
well, either way, he joined the military. I didn't, so I thank him for his service. But just because
You've been in a lot more danger than he has.
Well, so put it this way, though. Here's the thing. It's not that I don't. I respect him, but that does not give him carte blanche to say whatever he wants, because my opinion is just as valuable as his.
Yes.
And I'm not anti-vax at all. Guess what, guys? I have it. I'm vaccinated because
time to go.
No.
Well, that's half of us are vaccinated.
But I had my reasons. It was my body, my choice. I decided I had stuff that I needed to do.
But your body, your choice.
Yeah.
You got your vagina vaccinated?
Yes, I did. I did. It's a mangina. But I did because it was my decision. I did.
This is America.
And I can do what I want.
Do it.
You don't have to agree with me,
No.
but I get to do it.
But that's the perks of living in
Right.
America. You
Right.
have that right.
Exactly.
For now.
And so
Yeah.
when I get with this misinformation bullshit, that I got to give props to whoever that Fox reporter was that was grilling Psaki maybe a month ago, that when she was talking about misinformation, and I think his reply was, well, wait a minute, the stuff that you were saying that was misinformation from last year is actually turning out to be real information now, because we have to. Where's this outrage against China, where this all started from?
We're not allowed to talk about that.
Oh, I'm talking about it.
Our podcast will get shut off if we talk about it.
But we have the issue with, we saw Jon Stewart go off on the Colbert Show, where he's like, oh yeah, bat came down and kissed a pangolin, and you got to go, okay, how did this whole thing get started?
It's sort of, all right, kind of going to where we started from, why things are kind of turning to what they are. I have to wonder if it is on purpose on some level. In that, here's what I've seen is the standards for schools specifically. Actually, I'll just cut to the point on this. People have gotten dumb enough that they think socialism or collectivism is actually a good idea, and that's why we're in pure fucking chaos, or heading towards pure fucking chaos.
What's funny is that the people who have actually lived in those countries that have that, are the ones who say,
Yeah,
"Don't
that's
do it."
exactly my point. But it's this multi-layered thing where I mean, being in the military, I had, say, leadership that I genuinely enjoyed these men. They were people I would follow to hell and back 100% of the time. That wasn't most of them, though. Those were the exception to the rule, you know what I mean? And then even when I got into the civilian world, I'd say the reason I work for myself is because I never found a person that I respect your decision-making process. I don't have to agree with you, but I've never come across a boss that I was like, yeah, this guy knows what he's talking about. You know what I mean? So that's why I kind of shifted off to do my own thing. And we look at it kind of on the same way. The elected officials clearly don't know what the fuck they're doing. And then, but on that, the reason why police are having such a hard time and are disrespected, you guys are the sort of emissaries of those elected officials. You know what I mean?
So we got really weak on crime.
Mm-hmm.
What's the AB?
AB.
Steel
Well, it was
happens downstairs almost every day.
Yeah. So Prop 47 kicked in. I think it was 2014, and what that did was it lowered the thresholds for felony crimes.
Mm-hmm.
So, but prior to the Prop 47 getting kicked in, and that was actually passed, labeled as the Community Safety Act.
Just like the safe handgun roster.
Right, exactly.
Oh, just
So,
like the People's Republic of North Korea? Exact same thing.
What it did was it lowered the thresholds for crimes.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of people call them quality of life crimes. And you get into...
Which is just a...
Right, but then we go to the community-oriented policing stuff, which gets pounded in everybody's head, of the broken windows. It's a broken windows theory. If you don't fix the broken window, then the whole neighborhood goes to hell. So Prop 47 took crimes that were felonies and made them into misdemeanors. Mm-hmm. Personal use of certain controlled substances was a felony. We put you in jail. Mm-hmm. Theft of over $400 was a felony. If there was a burglary where you entry into a business with the intent to commit a theft or a felony was an actual felony. We could book you. If you had petty theft with a prior, meaning you were convicted of a petty theft, you spent 1 day in custody, which usually was a book and release. They fingerprint you and kick you out the door. Mm-hmm. That counted as 1 day of custody. And if you had that and you got caught with another petty theft, that was a felony. You were going to county. Mm-hmm. Well, why were people committing petty thefts? Support a habit. Okay, so we can have the debate about legalizing drugs and all that kind of stuff, but what ends up happening is the teeth that anybody had to get somebody into a program, it takes I think 7 or 8 attempts in rehab for actually to kick in. Well, now there's no accountability. Let's not even talk about the hundreds of thousands of active misdemeanor warrants that are in our county with people who are wanted that we can't book into jail. We'll find them, but it's not a bookable warrant. Meaning that, hey, did you know you got this warrant? Like I was in South Bay, that was the area where I was at. But if it was out of El Cajon, there was no way the sheriff was going down to drive this guy all the way to El Cajon court. They weren't going to do it. It doesn't make any sense logistically. But I don't understand when a judge writes an order that says, I hereby command any peace officer in the state of California to bring this body to me to answer for these crimes.
Well, so I mean that goes to what I was saying. The accountability is for the government is not.
Oh, there is
not
none.
there.
There is none.
And so how do you respect that authority if they're not going to hold themselves accountable? However, if let's just say I in California get caught, say I have a gun on me.
Sure.
Right? Now all of a sudden I'm the devil according to California. And then so just reasonably just through that description, why don't I like say Nathan Fletcher, or why don't I like
I don't like Nathan Fletcher for his politics.
But
the person
say Gavin Newsom or something like that. Why don't I like these elected officials? Well, for obvious reasons. I mean, it should be obvious. And then again, where it goes to police officers specifically, you're the face of the politicians. Sure. You know what I mean? So I think that's where. And then on that point, I don't know that we have time to really dig into this, but when you have, I think what I would think the reason why police do have a hard time, the reason I've kind of had my issues with police, it's the same. It's accountability. I've watched the shooting videos. I've watched the kind of how things happen. If a police officer has a good shoot, I'm always on their side. Like, okay, you had to do what you had to do, and I never have an issue. But let's take one that I saw fairly recently, where an SDPD cop shot a surrendering person, and they were later released like with no issues. There was no problem with it. That's a problem to me. Or the fellow that was in Arizona, I don't remember the guy's name, but the guy, they called him out because the guy had a BB gun in his hotel room.
Right.
And the dude was complying in the hallway. Do you guys remember?
Yeah.
You guys see this video?
Yeah.
Don't look
The cop
bad.
shot him.
Right.
And then no charges, nothing.
Wrong.
He just
Wrong.
got off
Wrong.
with that.
No, he didn't. He got charged.
Well, he didn't get convicted of anything.
Yes, he did.
Since that's brand new to me. I did follow
Yeah.
that one, and I saw that the
The one
charges
who
were
had
dropped.
the one who had his AR-15 with the dust cover that said "you're fucked."
No, not that guy. This was a
Okay.
completely different thing.
Because that was so. Are we talking about so? Then there's a lot of incidences, and I'm not 100% on all of them.
Sure.
Because, there's just so many going on. The one that I'm particularly talking about was I think the guy was a pest control guy, and he used the pellet guns to his pest control stuff. He shot gophers or whatever.
It sounds like we're talking about the same
so
story. So
he was charged.
So I'll have to look back into
So
that.
I know for a fact that guy was charged because that was one of the things that, as a firearms instructor, one of the cool things about my agency is you were able to use your personal firearm, and so we had some guys with some very nice rifles. But there were things like, okay, you can't have was it Black Rain? I think that had the skulls and stuff like that, inappropriate
You
for
just
work.
shouldn't.
Yeah,
This is
no, you weren't.
professionalism.
No professionalism. But that guy had on his dust cover, it said "you're fucked." Okay,
That's an
that right
irrelevant
there, that's
detail.
bad.
Yeah.
That right there alone is why are you putting it on?
Doesn't
there?
look good to a jury.
No, it does, well, not only does it, but it goes with the mindset, and you have to look at. So Graham versus Connor, which is the big use of force case that we have, is there's you don't get to go back with 20/20 hindsight. You have to go with the facts that the officer has at the time.
Yeah.
And what would a reasonable officer with the experience that officer has and the assets that officer has do at the same situation? One thing that I was lucky when I was a bailiff. I got to hear all this evidence. We don't get to hear all the evidence that a jury hears. We don't get to hear all the testimony. Look at a witness and go, okay, I believe that guy. If you're a juror or gal, whatever the case may be with that. So when we had like a Rodney King, okay, so that was what 1991. When the riots popped off, I was actually in the police academy. And when they acquitted him on state charges, and everybody went off on it. Now, was that bad? Yeah, that was a bad situation all the way around. We didn't have the tools that we have now. Those old tasers didn't work back in those days. Yeah, that was a bad day for us. But we weren't there for the jury to hear all. We weren't there. We did not hear all the testimony and get all the evidence that the jury heard. And then the way it gets reported, like we'll talk about like with Darren Wilson from Ferguson. Okay, basically tried and convicted in court, in the court of the media. How many sports heroes that we see in newscasters? Hands up, don't shoot.
Oh, sure.
Okay, none of that was true.
Yeah, the facts
None.
bared that guy out. He did exactly
Right.
what he was trained to do
Exactly.
and did it exactly
But
right.
I guarantee you right now, if you go and ask people about that, they'll bring that up.
Sure.
Okay, they'll bring up Jacob Blake, the kid from God, where was that?
Minnesota? Or was that New York?
Michigan. Michigan. It was the one that was it Michigan?
The one you
Where
talked
burned, right? Was Jacob Blake was the guy who was a sexual assault suspect with active warrants that was back at his sexual assault victim's house, who happened to be his ex-wife and baby mama. And forcibly took her car keys, had a knife on him, and said he was reaching for the knife in the car, and the officer shot him. Wisconsin. Kenosha, thank you.
That's right. Yeah, it was right when that college.
And our
house
current
thing
and
happened.
our current vice president said, "Hey, I'm proud of you." What happened to hashtag Me Too?
Oh man, that's
Okay.
That was pound me too.
Yeah, but
That's the little things,
all
man.
right, we're done.
all right.
And with that,
I want to go back to Afghanistan.
okay,
The dogs.
okay, so
I'm losing my mind.
So
over
here's
this.
Don't lose
this
your
is,
mind.
This is the not a dog person's view of this, and this is one of these things that pisses me off about the media over and again. So
media is social media.
both.
Oh.
The media specifically.
I
This
don't
is,
even
this
watch
is how
news.
I figured this out.
Yeah,
I
I'm
read a
not
lot of
cable
news and
anymore.
Right.
put things together. But all right, so I heard about the thing where they left the military dogs behind. They're leaving everything else behind. So I kind of believed it, but again, coming from the news, you have to be seriously skeptical of everything that's published.
So I put it on our Instagram. I said, I hope this is not true.
So I kind of let it simmer for a day or two, as I tend to do, and then it popped up. The Pentagon comes out. We did not leave any military dogs in Afghanistan is complete garbage. It's disgusting that anyone would think that we do this. And
First of all, I believe everything the Pentagon says.
Well, so I
Me too.
When it comes to dogs, you probably should.
I
'cause they're
took
not gonna
that.
do
I took that information. I went, okay, there was something when I read the article. Something's a little bit off. So let's dive into it as I like to do. Well, it turns out, officially, and is probably mostly true, no U.S. military dogs were abandoned in Afghanistan or at the airport. However, several U.S. military contract dogs were absolutely left at the airport. So I mean,
what information do you have?
So the information, and this is again, there's about 90 different stories that are going on, and I've heard of different things. I've heard that they're contract dogs, but they're not U.S. contract dogs. It's like from the UK. It's actually, I think the finger that has been being pointed is at a company called Garda World. So they are, and that's what, again, on social media, I'm not saying that they are, but I do have my understanding is there's, I think, 21 dogs.
Well, they're just roaming around. The Taliban had a press conference saying, well, we're going to use them. We're not going to put them down.
Sure they are.
I know.
Okay.
But I mean,
right.
they're having a press conference talking about.
Well,
maybe they're using to eat
at
them.
least
I don't know.
they're having a press conference to answer questions.
Yeah.
At least somebody is.
Somebody.
They're
That's
not
helpful.
on vacation right now.
Right, or checking their watch. But the so yes, it's terrible that happened, unsatisfactory. But then I have to have this mindset of, okay, were we able to put humans on a plane?
Oh no, they abandoned people there.
Yeah,
there
they
too.
there's no.
And they just said, nah, fuck them.
It's-
They didn't get here in time.
So it's not like in
dog in
Vietnam
your
where it's not where we're like in Vietnam where we purposefully left them there. They actually, I think there was something in some legislation passed where they couldn't. They're not allowed to leave the dogs back because of.
But that was just it. The military dogs all went
Right.
with their handlers.
Sure.
But they put this distinction, like these people
Contract.
and
Right.
dogs that were working with us and for us, they are somehow expendable. And the people,
Well,
the
it's
other,
not that they don't make that decision because it's not their property.
who's they?
The military does not make that decision because it's not their property. Whose property it is the companies who are being very well paid.
And I
to
imagine these
the
are
contractors.
American companies.
Well, some of them are worldwide companies. So it's like, I know like
Garda World's huge.
Garda World's gigantic. They have Garda World UK, so it could be a UK company or a branch of that company. Again, I don't know. This is from what again we've seen on social media and whatnot. But I do have a lot of military working dog contacts, especially that people that do that rehome them when they get retired.
Right. So that was actually what I was hoping you had some insight, because I read the one story. It was kind of true but kind of not. You get more information, you kind of get part of the story.
It's changing.
And then outside of that, I don't know what's going on.
We do know that there were dogs left.
Yeah.
And
And
now,
they look
who's-
like dogs that would be.
Well, yeah, you got Mallards, you've got Shepherds, and there's some Springers in there because we use hunting dogs all the time now, especially for just the single purpose stuff. I mean, they're out there. I worked a couple of really fantastic German Shorthair pointers yesterday. They're amazing. It's awful they got left there. How do we correct that problem? I don't know.
Well, you evacuate
Well,
properly.
well,
You do
that's
things in the correct-
that's a whole different thing. Yeah, yes. We know that you don't close down your air base without getting everybody out first. That's just
Let's talk about something that's near and dear to where we live.
right.
Human trafficking.
Wow.